Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wrestle Plug podcast. I am, of course, the shithousery master and Egyptian death machine that is N.O.B'z. And it's time for another interview. And we have had many a knob on this podcast, but we have always been missing one knob, one very special knob. And he has finally decided to show his beautiful face on our podcast. Sensational Simon Durden of the NOBz. He's here at Wrestle Plug. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here. How are we doing?
We're not bad. We're not bad. Now, obviously, I affectionately refer to you as the accountant of the NOBz, the more quiet, more straight-laced individual of the NOBz. But for the people who aren't aware of you, the people who don't necessarily know who Sensational Simon is, why don't you just give us a very quick taster, a little summary of who Sensational Simon Durden is and what he means to the wrestling business?
So basically, I am one of the first members of the NOBz, the originators, if you like. Me and Dirty Dave Dennis sort of became a tag team in RevPro, working under the Contenders division there. And we sort of have built an empire, if you like, with the NOBz, with the nasty old boys. So that's what it stands for. You see it there. Yeah, cool.
Available now.
Yeah, they are available now. £15. They'll be at shows.
Save the plugs till the end, sweetheart.
I will, yeah.
All night.
But so basically part of originally a Hill stable, but I think we kind of at the last CWP show, we sort of turned a lot of fans, and I think a lot were chanting NOBz, and we don't really know where we are anymore. Whether we're bad guys, we're good guys, but you know we're basically guys who like a bit of shithousery, if you like.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other three said, well, two of them do. One of them, well, you know, big old Eddie Kenway just seems like he's a heavy at this point, bit of a hired goon. And then, of course, there's you, the quiet one. And everybody sort of says to me, oh, you know, Sensational Simon, he's the quiet one. He doesn't make too much noise. He's always in the background a little bit. Is it fair to say that out of the four guys, you're the one who's more of the thinking man's wrestler as opposed to the outright obnoxious arsehole that the other three tend to portray?
Well, I think you've got to think when you're trying to compete with Ebenezer the Geezer and Dirty Dave Dennis, I can't be as loud as those two. I mean, I could be, but what's the point? I'm competing with two guys that are they're just so brilliant at their characters, and they're so just so loud and so over with the crowd that if I was just trying to do the same thing, it would just be three identical guys in the stable. And I've got to say that I'm a thinking man's wrestler. Yeah, probably more so than the other two or the other three. But you know, I can be a knob if you like. You know, I can be a bit of a dick in the ring if I want to be. But I just don't want to have to try and compete with, you know, Ebenezer and Dave of you know, just those two guys are just so talented and so over with the crowd. They're just so loud, and I think if I was to try and do the same thing, I get lost in the shuffle. And you know, we need some differentials in the crowd and in the NOBz. And you know, you got that with me, you got that with Eddie Kenway, and you know, and Dave Dennis and Ebenezer. They're two different guys, but they're just, you know, they're quite a good mold together, if you like.
Initially, I believe the NOBz was you and Dirty Dave Dennis. That was kind of the original sort of founding father, so to speak. You got your break in that regard, in that faction. That was kind of thought of while you were under the RevPro banner. How long was it into your training before you and Dirty Dave decided we should collaborate as individuals and work our way into this kind of faction? Because there must have been a time period before that where you're just training and trying to get on shows and looking to push through the incredibly difficult, you know, dark curtain that is Revolution Pro Wrestling.
Correct. So just to sort of go back a bit, I started training in Revolution Pro Wrestling the same week Dirty Dave Dennis started training as well. So we have the exact same amount of experienced as each other. Basically, a beginners session was introduced to Revolution Pro Wrestling in I want to say 2017, sort of June area, I think. I went to the first week because, I mean, I for those who don't know, I was 30 years old when I started wrestling in 2017, and I had always wanted to get into the pro wrestling industry, and I think I was kind of just put off by the fact that I could come to a training school and you sort of have this image in your head that everyone's going to be amazing, everyone's going to be doing all these amazing moves, everyone's going to be twice the size of me, and you know me, I'm not the tallest guy, I'm like 5'7", if that. So when I saw this a flyer for a RevPro show, I think I went to the Portsmouth Guildhall to see, I think the main event was Ryback versus Rishi Ghosh and Gideon Gray. And on the back of the flyer was this advert for the Portsmouth School of Wrestling. And I think it was introducing a beginner's class. So Rishi Ghosh initially took those. And I went along to the first day. I had people who said they would come up with me and were, going to join me, but they didn't in the end. But so I went by myself, braved it out. And yeah, within that first week, Dave Dennis came along as well. So I just clicked with Dave straight away. He's sort of an older guy getting into the pro wrestling as well. So we sort of clicked straight away, and we were trying to get on shows together. And, we eventually did. 6 months into our training, we got asked to be part of the Revolution Rumble in 2018. That was both our first shows. I worked as a babyface in the Rumble. Dave worked as Dave Dennis, the heel. And although we didn't interact in that Rumble at all, this was our first show together. And then as that year went on, I was sort of told that they wanted me to be a babyface, and I was working sort of babyface for the Contenders shows, and I didn't really feel it was me. I was happy working it, but I didn't feel that was me, and I wanted to work with Dave, and I could see like sort of the character Dave had, and I could see he probably wanted to be like this mega star. He describes himself as the man, the myth, the future legend, and I'm not sure Dave ever really saw himself as a tag team wrestler, but I could easily see myself falling into a tag team with Dave, even though it was never suggested until we got to a Contender show where they pretty much got the whole card ready, and we were in a training session, and they were saying, right, you two go work your match together, you two go work your match together, because it's coming up on this card. And there was like 6 guys left, right? And me and Dave were 2 of them. And we were put into a match, a 6-man tag match. It was like, right, you work heel, you work heel, you work babyface, you work babyface, and then he sort of looked at me and went, okay, all right, you're gonna have to work heel. So I was like, that's what I want to do. Okay, so we put together this 6-man tag team match in a training session, and it was me, Dave Dennis, Ethan Lee, and we faced off against AJ Wright, Kai Caden, and Tom Evans. I'm not sure if you know those guys, but yeah, we did a 6-man tag in training, and the coach was sort of blown away by it, and he sort of said, "Oh, do that exact match, and we'll put that on the show." So we got put onto the show together, and I got to work heel for the first time, and I sort of I could see myself gelling with Dave there. And we sort of, we were putting tag team moves together and everything. And I was just like, no, I really like this. And for the rest of that year, I think we're into 2019 here. Yeah, we are. Yeah, to 2019. So every show that year, teaming with Dave in one way or another, it was either a tag team match, 6-man tag team match, handicap match. But I worked with Dave every show, and we never actually called ourselves the Nasty Old Boys then, or the NOBz or anything. We didn't have a name. It was just Dave and Sensational Simon, and well, that's sort of how the NOBz came about, I guess, going back to the question. And as that year went on, we sort of brought Eddie Kenway into the matches as well, because I think initially we were in a Survivor Series style match with Eddie Kenway. I think we had Hayden Taylor as our other tag team partner in that show. And then we did another match where it was a 3-on-1 handicap match. Again, we had Eddie Kenway, and it was me and Dave. And then, yeah, we just sort of ended the year. We sort of went into a pandemic not long after that. During that pandemic, me and Dave were just discussing ideas. We wanted to branch out to different promotions. We wanted to get known, basically. And we were like, well, if we're a tag team, we can't just be going by the name Dave Dennis, Simon Durden, or Sensational Simon Dave. We need to sort of establish it as a tag team. So we came up with a name. We were going through this names, and I think we came up with Nasty Old Boys, and we were like, oh, N.O.Bz. That's perfect, right? And we sort of said, we don't really want it to just be a tag team. We want it to be a stable. And we obviously thought Eddie Kenway, perfect. He'll be the muscle, right? And I think, sorry, I'm blabbering on a bit, but I'm going to go back again now, right? So initially, before me and Dave even became a tag team, I know Dave wanted to be a tag team with Ebenezer, and there was discussion of it at one point, and I can't remember why it never happened. It didn't happen. We just said, well, he'd be great for the stable. And it was the four of us there, and we thought we could make this bigger at one point, but guys is enough at the moment, and that's sort of how it all came about. Sorry to get on a bit there.
That's all right, mate. The process of Revolution Pro Wrestling, I trained there for a while, didn't have any problems, felt like I was treated reasonably well. Just wasn't really my cup of tea, which is why I moved on to other places. But there is a big DNA there, I've noticed, of wrestlers that have gone there, found that they're not given the opportunity creatively. Eddie Kenway and Dirty Dave are two of the biggest examples I have, because they both came on this podcast and spoke about whether it be treated poorly or just not given an opportunity. They felt like RevPro wasn't conducive to a professional environment that they wanted to work in. Did you feel, and during your time in RevPro, at any point, like this is an area, this is a place where I'm not going to be treated as well, or I'm not going to be given the same amount of opportunities as other guys are, because I'm maybe not quite the NJPW caliber wrestler, because you fit into a different mold, like Dave Dennis, who's not going to give you a 5-star match, but will entertain you more so than pretty much anyone else on the card? Did you feel the same way? Did you feel slighted in any way by the Revolution Pro system, or was it just a case of it just didn't suit your needs for what you wanted to be as a wrestler?
A bit of everything, like what you were saying there. You're right. I'm not the New Japan Pro Wrestling style wrestler, and I'm never going to be. I could train day in, day out. I don't think I'd ever get there. And I know that's the sort of wrestler that's used on the main card there, that's used to set out the cockpit and, all the London show, all across the country. I could never see myself getting on a New Japan Pro Wrestling show. With that said, I was happy contender shows, and I was happy I was getting picked to do contender shows, but I felt I was never going to get to the top of a contender show card with the guys that are there at the Revolution Pro Wrestling, at the Portsmouth School of Wrestling. So really, it came to a point where just before the pandemic hit, I was going to reach out to Rishi Ghosh at Quality Wrestling anyway, and I was going to see if I could go to both schools. I wanted to go to Quality Wrestling, I wanted to go to Portsmouth School of Wrestling. I just wanted to get as much exposure as possible. And just before the pandemic, I actually cracked one of my ribs in training, and I sort of, it just never happened. So during the pandemic, going on about the pandemic a bit, but during that, I was reaching out to Rishi, and I was saying, when your school reopens, I'd love to come down and see what it's like, because like I said, I trained under Rishi when he was at the Portsmouth School of Wrestling, but I'd never been to the Quality Wrestling Academy up in Havant. And I just said to him, I said, once this is all blown over, I'd love to come down to the school, I'd love to see what it's like. And eventually I did, and I never went back to Revolution Pro Wrestling. Like you were saying with Dave and Eddie, they felt they weren't getting their chances. I felt like I couldn't go any further there. I felt like I was just stuck there, if you like. I was going to be the same guy on the show all the time. I was going to be either in a mid-card tag team match, jobbing out to make someone look good, or I was just going to be stuck in I mean, I never got a singles match in Revolution Pro Wrestling, you know, other than being in a Rumble, you know. And if I did, I could see myself just being squashed there by guys that are just far more experienced. And you know, I was happy I went to the Quality Wrestling Academy in the end, and you know, I got a few more opportunities to go on to different shows from there. You know,
the big comment that I hear a lot of in wrestling, because we don't shy away from the honesty here, is if you want to be a great wrestler and you want to be a high caliber wrestler, you go to Revolution Pro Wrestling. If you want to be a weekend warrior, you go to Quality Wrestling. How do you respond to that insinuation from certain people that if you go to Quality Wrestling, you are essentially saying that I'm happy just being a more casual entertainment-based wrestler and not a serious athlete?
I don't agree with that at all. There are some great guys at Quality Wrestling, as I know you're well aware of. You know the guys that are there. Two of your favorite guys, Aaron Cruz and Cameron Anderson, just to name a couple. You know, and they
Aaron
are
Cruz,
great athletes.
Cameron Anderson's a G, but Aaron Cruz is a gobshite. Let's be honest. I prefer Hitman for Hire. He's my sort of pace. I like. That's my kind of wrestling.
You know full well that those guys they're not weekend warriors. They are guys that could be the future of pro wrestling, and they train with Rishi Ghosh at the Quality Wrestling Academy, and there are more of them there. Granted, that there are some guys that aren't so good at Quality Wrestling Academy, and you know I'm happy to say that I'm probably not in the amazing athlete standard that some of the guys are there down there, but I'm also, I know I'm not the worst guy there, if I'm being honest.
Who is the worst guy at Quality then, Simon Durden?
No, don't make me answer that question. Oh dear. But
you put it out there. I wasn't even going to ask, but all of a sudden you were like saying, "Wow, some of these guys are a bit rubbish."
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that question.
Well, that'll be in the outtakes. You'll have to pay for that.
Yeah.
It's Aaron Cruz.
Yeah,
that guy sucks. Yeah. Well, the obviously moving forward from that, you went to Quality. I already, of course, knowing you as a personal friend, know that you've kind of moved from that journey, and now after the pandemic, you're into this stage of trying to find as many places to work while also trying to move the gimmick, move the faction forward. The NOBz now find themselves at CWP, Charity Wrestling Promotion. They find themselves at ACW, of course, which is based around the Bournemouth and Poole region, which is where you're based, which is good news for you, because it means you're more likely to get a booking, just saying. And then, of course, there is a multitude of other opportunities that could be lined up, and you have worked Quality showcases as well before, I've noticed as well. So would you say that right now, with what you're doing with the companies that are mentioned and hopefully working for new promotions as well that are coming about, would you say that you're doing more now as a wrestler than you were when you were at RevPro?
Definitely. I might not be training as much like I was at RevPro. I was training weekly at RevPro. That's cut down now, but that's more due to financial reasons that I struggle to train now. I mean, I'd love to train at the Quality Wrestling Academy, but finance, I just can't afford fuel to get there. The training session itself, I mean, it's not expensive, but that comes into it. And then being sort of late in the day, I need a meal as well. I've got to pay for a meal while I'm out there. I'm spending more money doing that than I'd ever make back in the pro wrestling industry, which I know that. Oh, sorry, I forgot the question. Go on. Can you remind me what you were saying?
Yeah, basically, I mean, obviously, well, I mean, to be fair, you did answer it. You said yes. So that's all we need, really. I mean,
more opportunities. No, you're right. I am getting more opportunities. Like you say, CWP, ACW, that's a blessing, ACW coming around. Like you say, it's in my local area. I've been fortunate enough now to work 2 shows with them, and it's one of the best locker rooms I've been a part of backstage. And they've asked me to work their latest show as well, which I'll be doing next week. And also love to sort of work more promotions that are around the area. You mentioned that the NOBz are branching out, and the NOBz at Outcast, they've been fortunate enough to go down there this last week. I didn't make it, unfortunately, but that's another promotion that I'd love to work as Outcast. I've been watching their shows every time they've been streaming them on their Twitch channel, and there's just so much quality down there. And I'd love to be on one of their shows, with the NOBz working, tag team match, or even in a singles competition. I don't mind, but yeah, along with Outcast, there are other promotions around the South. I've been fortunate enough to work for Kapow Wrestling last year, like I say, along with Quality Wrestling Academy, and that is what sort of helped work. Training at Quality Wrestling Academy has helped me sort of branch out, because I feel at RevPro there was never sort of that encouragement to sort of go and look elsewhere. And I sort of feel that once I went to the Quality Wrestling Academy, I was put in touch with Chris K for SWF, and then I reached out to Robbie for CWP, and he said, Quality Wrestling Academy, yeah, no, that's fine. If you train there and they're happy to have you on our show, then that's fine. Obviously Rishi being the champion there, and I'm guessing he's got a really good relationship with Robbie, and the students that train at Quality Wrestling Academy, I think, should look to branch out to places like CWP and ACW and Outcast, and just work their magic around the South, because it's a really, really good scene at the moment in the South Coast, and I'm just hoping to sort of get out there with the NOBz.
Yeah, the NOBz is kind of what you've laid your hat on, I've noticed. You've sort of said to yourself, right, I'm all in on this. I'm the accountant, the social media manager, whatever it might be. I'm going to crunch them numbers, honey. And here we are. You are now a member of a 4-man faction. I still think it's 3 men and a large guy, but it is what it is. And let's be honest, none of you are going to do anything about it, because I'm much, much bigger than all of y'all. Which is great news for me. And also, you can't beat me up, because I'm the one recording your matches and making you look good. But
True.
there is
you're doing a great job of it.
I'll try my hardest, bless you. Thank you very much. I think the NOBz has a lot of potential, but it also needs tweaking. Like anything, it needs improvement in certain places. In other places, it excels actually a lot better than other things. So it's always a very difficult balancing act. Something that's popped up recently on my social media feed is Savage Pro Wrestling, which I've noticed you're going to be a part of. I understand that's going to be a very different concept, but I also know that most of the NOBz, if not all of them, will be involved in some form or fashion. I believe it will be Isle of Wight based, or around that kind of region. Tell us a little bit about the process, because I imagine at some point that's going to come to the forefront of what you guys are doing. You're going to be mainstays of that company, so people might want an opportunity to know what it's all about, so they can watch it for themselves.
Okay, yeah. So Savage Pro Wrestling was a concept that was sort of brought to me during the pandemic. Again, we were looking at sort of doing shows behind closed doors, because at the time there was, we couldn't do shows in front of audiences, and it was sort of like a Lucha Underground style thing that was sort of brought to me at the time. It was like, we will focus on characters, which is what I love more than anything, is that characters of pro wrestling, and we will focus on storylines, and we will work matches into it, which was the original idea. And obviously, as time's gone on, obviously venues have opened up again, and the sort of idea has changed slowly, with saying, well, we can still work behind closed doors, but we might have to sort of, have like a crowd in with us at the same time, just sort of like an audience of wrestlers, if you like, the other trainees at schools. And I know the original idea was to sort of film it in the training center that Outcast Pro Wrestling has, and then it's just sort of bounced around a lot of ideas. And yes, the NOBz was originally sort of going to be a faction that was heavily sort of focused on during that, and obviously there's been some sort of disagreements and stuff between Dave Dennis and Ryan Hendricks, and Ryan Hendricks, as some might not know, is sort of the mastermind of Savage Pro Wrestling. Probably, mastermind. I don't know if he wants to. I don't know if he wants me to let that out, but it's out there now, so I've said it.
Well, it is now, honey. He'll do nothing about he can do for our cucumber at me. Oh, I'm terrified.
So obviously, sort of discuss things with Ryan as to whether we still wanted to go ahead with using the NOBz. We're sort of talking it out, and hopefully it is something that still will go ahead. I'd love to sort of have us featured heavily as sort of a main act in a promotion. And I think the NOBz, you know, it could be the new Horseman, it could be the new NWO, it could be the new, you know, it could be that for the South Coast British wrestling scene, it could be that for the whole British wrestling scene. Who knows, you know? And I just really want this thing to work really well. And like you said, I've sort of focusing on NOBz now as opposed to Sensational Simon, because I want us to work together as a unison, as sort of a faction to become bigger than Sensational Simon hit by himself could be. And I think we could be. I think we could be that. And with sort of the knowledge and the experience that we've got behind us in the guys, I think that could happen. Whether it's just working South Coast, whether it's working across the whole UK, you know, one day the NOBz could be on TV. Who knows?
God forbid. It's bad enough you're on here. I'll tell you what, I have to ask. I like asking hard questions, and I have to ask this question because it bugs me every time I see your name. What in God's name possessed you to have the name Durden?
Okay, yeah. So it's all I've noticed now. It's like really awkward to sort of say, and the surname comes from. Have you ever seen Fight Club?
Yes.
The main character is called Tyler Durden. Fight Club is my favorite film. I had to come up with a name on the night that I first wrestled, and I hadn't come up with a name. And it was one of them things where I was like, I don't want to use my real name. And, you know, I wanted to use Simon, but I didn't want to use my real surname, which I won't mention here. But so I was like, right, my favorite film character is Tyler Durden. I was like, screw it, Simon Durden, right? And I wasn't even called the Sensational Simon Durden. Then it was just Simon Durden. And I was like, okay, he's coming out to Simon Durden. And then I was like, I like Sensational Simon. I was like, well, now people know me as Simon Durden, so I'm gonna Sensational Simon Durden. Okay, right, I'll use that. And now I'd rather just be called Sensational Simon, if I'm being honest. But
yeah, lose it, mate.
It works, doesn't it? And
you want honesty, honey, especially at the Wrestle Plug, get rid of it. I'll tell you why. Because me and Ebenezer get on very well, and we have discovered something very special about the name Durden, and that is that Durden is also the sound that is predominantly made in jingles, film franchises, things like that. So, of course, we have Jaws, where it's like Durden, Durden, Durden. James Bond, Durden, Durden, Durden. You know, it's that kind of thing. So, unless you're going to make a movie gimmick, which, by the way, I want royalties if you do. Yeah, it's one of those things where I just think you've already got Sensational Simon. You don't need anything else. Although maybe you don't want people using the short-term initials of that SS, because that could be slightly uncomfortable. But you never know. Don't ask me to make that T-shirt. I don't think even my reputation can take that hit. But yeah, no, it's I was just curious, to be fair. Now, we obviously have word association, which should be good fun with you because we're going to probe you for information about people. But one thing I do want to know about is what is your grand hope for the NOBz? Realistically, how high do you believe you can take it?
Realistically?
Yes, realistically.
The NOBz could go as high as they wanted to, mate. they could be on TV. I was saying that like we've got so many different personalities in the NOBz. Although we're all dickheads, there's four completely different personalities in the NOBz. Yeah, and you know, Dirty Dave Dennis is
King Dickhead.
King Dickhead. That's a good way to describe it. He is King Dickhead, and he fucking loves it as well.
He does. That's why I like him. That's why he's one of my favorites, because he's honest about being a prick.
He knows he's a dickhead, and he loves it, and he gets off on it, I think. So, and I with Ebenezer, he is such a character in himself, in the fact that he is himself.
He's a massive talent.
Yeah, exactly. The character that you see in the ring.
Even you were agreeing there. You were like, yeah, he is actually a bellend.
But he's the best bellend, and
the best bellend and the King Dickhead. So where do you fall into this equation?
Exactly. I know. You have to ask those two guys, or your man Eddie Kenway, but find out what they think I am. I mean, you think I'm the accountant, so
today, to be honest.
Yeah. Can I ask where did that nickname come from, Counting? Because it's not bothering me, but it's like, where did that come from? You just came out of it once, and I was like,
well, like, you know, I'm looking at what you guys are, and in my personal opinion, you don't fit the mold. That's just my personal opinion, which is why it's nice to have you on the podcast so you can have an opportunity to explain what you think you do, because it is a two-sided argument. But when I look at you, I think he's such a nice guy. Like, he's such a lovely person. He's got the boyish kind of face that all the stepmoms want to sleep with. Like, he just looks like that kind of guy. And he just looks like he has a very humble, well-paid office job. He works in a bank. And all that sort of stuff. You just look like a very nice, humble. But like, I look at Ebenezer and Dave, and I immediately think, fucking pricks. Like, pricks. Like, my kind of pricks, but pricks nonetheless. I look at Eddie Kenway and I think, that is one big motherfucker. Then I look at you and I think, oh, that's nice. They brought their friend from the bank to come and help out. Like, that's just kind of how it looks. Like, oh, that's nice. They've got this really nice. I imagine you're the one who levels them out. And I almost feel like if you were going to move forward with it and got more things like TV time and that, it'd be actually really cool to see a dynamic where you're like, they're just completely unhinged, smashing stuff up, and you're just like, let's just settle down and think about things sensibly before we start destroying the office. Like, you've got the ability. But then again, that being said, I saw you in your last ACW appearance. I was obviously the videographer for that, and I saw some decent character work. We saw a little bit more charisma. So it depends on how you want to take it. I mean, if you wanted advice from somebody like me for whatever reason, my advice is be much, 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 much more of a dickhead, so that you align better with what they're doing. But also hang your hat on the fact that you're a good in-ring worker. You're very smooth, you're very technical as well. Hang your hat on that. Make sure that you're the guy who delivers the good structure of a match, because that's something else that can help. But you're always going to be the accountant to me. So yeah, crunch those numbers. There's nothing you can do about it. You're not going to do anything about it. If you send Kenway around here, I'll drop him on his head. So simple as. I'm not impressed by your muscle. Not impressed at all.
Lovely guy.
I have to ask very quickly before we get into word association. We will probably mention his name. What do you think about the whole Dirty Dave Dennis Ryan Hendricks scenario? How that's panned out? How that's kind of led to some somewhat mainstream kind of press? A lot more people talking about it. And also, how do you feel about the amount of people who have tried to get involved? Wrestlers that look like they're trying to kind of get their money's worth out of it, get their sort of 5 minutes of fame.
Yeah. I mean, for those who don't know, I've sort of put my thoughts out on social media in the past, but I'll say it here as well. The whole situation obviously came about without me knowing about it. I just found out about it after the fact. I didn't know this was something that had happened when it happened. It was, there's people talking on social media, and I just sort of think, well, what's this all about? What people talking about Dave? And I was like, okay, let me find out from the man himself. So I went straight to Dave Dennis, and I said, what's happened here then? Because I haven't seen anything, and all these people were saying that you're like an unprofessional dickhead or something, and is this a work? And I'm talking to Dave, and he's just explained the whole situation like he's explained on your podcast before, that it was something that Ryan was sort of planning a match that he didn't want to do, a match that they'd already seen before. And there was like the whole thing with Ryan sort of saying, well, how about you just shoot on me at the start and all that, and they went from there. Now, obviously, everyone knows the story of the match and what happened, and Dave sort of got this bad press for it. And I know Dave, obviously, I've known him for like the last 5 years, and I thought Dave's not an unprofessional guy. He's one of the most professional wrestlers that I know. And I know Ryan, he lives not far from me. I've taken him to training sessions at Portsmouth School of Wrestling sometimes. I've driven him up there a few times. I've chatted to him plenty of times. I know Ryan, and I'm thinking, what's happened here? Why would this happen? And I wanted to take. I didn't want to take sides. Sorry. And in the end, I did. I took side with Dave Dennis because I believe what he's saying there, and I couldn't picture him doing anything like this. The rap he's getting for it, and look, he's embraced it. He's tried to sort of help make a story out of it. I don't know if you've seen the videos of him at the Isle of Wight this past weekend, you know, with the rest of the NOBz trying to sort of make a story out of it. I think he's trying to save what's happened there, try and make it into a story, and try and like ignore this bad press that we're getting for it. And like I say, it's affected Dave's bookings. Have you seen Dave in a match since that match? He's had one, you know, and at one point he was working every week, especially on the holiday camp shows with the Knights, and you know, I think he'd been working Kapow, and I don't think he's getting phone calls from them anymore. And obviously the Outcast guys, I don't think they've used him since then either. And it's just a shame, really, because you know, Dave Dennis is one of the best talents that are out there at the moment, and people should have him on their shows. And if you're not using him, then you're mad, because he's a great guy. And same things happen with Ryan. I don't really know how he's sort of playing this now, whether he just wants to forget about it, or whether he wants to sort of make a story out of it, like I think Dave's trying to do. Personally, I think they should make a story out of it. Have this one last match, make sure it happens properly, and then let them go their separate ways and just be the end of it. Because I'll be honest, I'm getting a bit sick of it myself, and it's been months now. So
Yeah, no, Ryan Hendricks has gone fairly quiet on social media, I've noticed recently, which is probably a good thing, because he's insufferable at the worst of times, but it is what it is. And also, I don't appreciate him going on Real Wrestling and talking shit. So, you know, it is what it is. And also, I appreciate Real Wrestling, you know, apologising, but that was only because Dirty Dave basically held a gun to their heads or whatever. So, you know, I'm always going to have time for him.
Yeah, he did a great job on their podcast and yours, obviously, as well. And
yeah, obviously he did a better job on mine, but you know, it is what it is. That's because we have production values here, and we actually care about the content we put out to a certain extent. Even if we're going to be arseholes, we make sure it looks good when we're being arseholes. Now, speaking of making yourself look good, Simon Durden, I asked a number of our listeners and also some of our close friends for a list of names that I could ask you for word association. So I want one word, as you know the score by now. I want one word to describe these individuals on this list. Are you ready to potentially bury what little self-respect you have left in this business?
Yes, please.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. I like it when they're keen to bury themselves. And we're going to start with the vegan warrior, Ryan Hendricks.
I think he's too chilled, but he's chilled man, and he's chilled vegan.
Chilled vegan. Yeah, he will be if he ends up in my freezer to pellet. Right, Chris K.
Legend. He's a British legend. I was fortunate enough to work him a few months ago for Kapow. First time I got to work in my hometown, and I appreciated that he booked me for it. And he's a British legend.
Scott Jones.
Future. Scott Jones is the future of pro wrestling, mate. Like I said, I've been fortunate enough now I've only seen a few of his matches. Yeah, he is money, definitely. I've seen a few of his matches, and he looks like he's been doing this for years, but as far as I'm aware, he hasn't been. I really don't know how much experience he has, but he looks like he's been doing it 10 years at least, you know. And looking at him, it doesn't look like a person who's been in the pro wrestling industry for 10 years. So
no, disgustingly young and talented. Sickening, frankly. Jackson Arrow. Met
Jackson Arrow once, and he was great to me. Great chat. But way to describe him, I think sickeningly good. He's That's so young as well. Again, like Scott Jones. Yes, 2 words. Yeah. But
as an accountant, you should know these things. Is there like is it a thing of like you're so good with numbers that you're just useless at English, like Robbie Nitro?
Robbie Nitro's English, mate. Oh dear.
Robbie Nitro's everything is oh dear at this point, mate. Dumb potato.
I love it. I love it, mate. But
I'm glad you do. Somebody has to. No love lost. Don't care. Fuck that guy. So, seeing as we mentioned him, the living potato that is Robbie Nitro.
I think the last CWP show, he was so generous with sort of the people that he put on the show, and I think I getting a chance to work there was it was sort of eye-opening because it was probably like the first locker room that I ever sort of went into, and I felt everyone here sort of it's like a team. And you were there. Did you see Robbie's sort of prep talk at the beginning?
How could I not?
I hadn't seen anything like that before in a show I've been to. Normally, I'd work a show and it's like, you know, all guys discussing the matches and it's just sort of everyone goes off to the side. This was sort of, you know, he was like bigging up the show and like getting everyone G'd up, and it was just really eye opening. And you know, I think he's a great promoter. I don't know why he gets so much stick. I don't know if he gets the stick as a wrestler, but I think he's a great wrestler as well. You know, he's worked so hard, and I saw his match with Jackson Arrow at the last CWP show, and we know Jackson Arrow's a great wrestler, but I think Robbie sort of he made that match just as much as he did. So
that's your opinion, not mine. But you're entitled to an opinion. Obviously, your opinions are terrible at times, but then I'd expect that from a knob. Sorry, mate, but at no point am I going to sit here and say that Robbie Nitro made that match as much as Jackson Arrow did. Robbie Nitro sucks absolute balls in every level.
I mean a little. He made it just as a sort of goodish.
You seem slightly nervous, so we'll move on, bud. Let's talk about the virus, Kane Michael.
Scary.
Yeah, you should be scared.
I know.
You should be scared because we're recording this before CWP's Redemption show, which you're going to be sharing a ring with this guy. So I look forward to this because this might be a posthumous podcast where, you know, Sensational Simon might have passed away at the hands of the virus, Kane Michael, or even a chop party as well. And we'll get to him in a minute. But what's the thought process? As you can see. What's the thought process going into a match like that? Are you excited about it? I mean, obviously people know the result by now, but you know, the concept of going into a five-way match, knowing that the four other opponents are just so different and difficult and nothing like you've ever faced.
Definitely. I'm really excited. I'm going to be honest. I'm really excited about this match. When I first saw the graphic for it, because that was the first time I knew who else was in the match. I knew I'd been booked for CWP, but I didn't know who I was facing. And when I saw the graphic, I was like, wow. And with the virus Kane Michael, like you say, he's a scary guy. And I've seen his Outcast matches, and I've seen the sort of carnage that comes about in them. And I'm looking forward to it, but at the same time, I'm hoping I sort of leave with all my limbs and everything's still intact. So.
We'll see. If for any reason, what we'll do it before and after, and we'll have you on after the fact and see how you look afterwards. So take a screenshot right now because he may never look this way again.
I have like plaster cast out like this, and
I know, right?
Bandages all
be like proper like Tom and Jerry stuff, just laying there with one leg up on a gurney. Like that'll be good shit. Yeah, I'm old too. Don't worry. In fact, I'm older than you, so you can go fuck yourself. Bottom line, really. Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. Let's see. The leader of the chop party, Rudy Root.
Yeah, exciting. He sort of gets the crowd going. I was fortunate enough to see him for the first time at the CWP show last, and I've been watching his Outcast stuff, and he really deserves that. Well, when he got the Outcast title, he deserved that. He's a guy who's worked really hard to get where he is, and you know, I don't know him well, but I've seen how he's worked to get there. He deserved that, and the feud he's having with Jackson Arrow at the moment, which I think is just sort of coming to an end now, probably will come to an end at the CWP show. That might be their last match for a while. And yeah, it's been going on for a while, but yeah, no, well deserved champion, well deserved spot on the roster that he gets at Outcast, and wherever he wrestles in the future, you know, I just hope the best for him.
Yeah, no, he's a wonderful talent, is Rudy. We'll move towards the close. I haven't mentioned any women yet. How about Luna Trix?
Luna Trix, she's again. I haven't met her, but I've seen her matches, and being the only woman that trains at Outcast, as far as I'm aware, and wrestles all the men, and is the women's champion. That she's just done such a sensational job.
I was wondering how long that would take. A little bit disappointed it took this long.
What are we in, like 40 minutes? Yeah, no, she's done such a great job, and look forward to seeing her match at CWP this week for the women's title there, and just see how far she can go in this industry.
Yeah, crazy talented. Going to be wrestling some really special talents. Just wrestled Aaron Warnes and Rudy Root in a triple threat. Just wrestled, obviously, Victoria Adams is the match you're referring to. She would have wrestled her by now, by the time we get around to this. And somebody who's quite vaunted for the Midlands, she gets to wrestle some of the best wrestlers in the country. And she's got zero fear about it as well, which is really cool. So, yeah, no, just a genuine all-round talent, even if she is an annoying shitbag. I'll pay for that one. I can tell you. Oh, I'm going to pay for that one. You know what friends are like. They hate each other. That's what we do. We just rib each other here at the Wrestle Plug. Right, let's get into the meat of the matter. Eddie, the Samoan weapon of mass destruction, Kenway, or as we affectionately refer to him as, B-Tech Roman Reigns.
2 words.
What was the word? Sorry, your audio dips in and out at times. I do apologize.
Tribal beef.
Tribal beef. There you go. Again, we'll have to put a hyphen in there to make it one word. But by the way, I just like to make it known that I'm the one who came up with the tribal beef slang. So you're fucking welcome. Now put it on a t-shirt, make some money, and pay me my goddamn royalties, you big bastards.
Eddie Kenway. Can I just say before we go on? Eddie Kenway was the first guy at RevPro training that sort of gave me any advice, that like a student that sort of I think we were sort of doing tags in and out, and I've done a few holds with someone. I came back out and to the apron, and I stood next to Eddie Kenway. You know, I hadn't spoken to him before, and he just sort of came to me and just said, "Look, do this." I'll be honest, I can't remember what the advice was now, but back then it just meant a lot to me that he was like the first guy that reached out and said that you just need to do this, and this, and you know that's sort of what started my friendship with Eddie, and you know he's such a great guy. I love him.
Well, yeah, you have to say that, don't you? Otherwise, you know, you won't be getting as many t-shirt royalties. Let's be honest. He told me off camera you're an arsehole. That is what it is. So, moving on with more shit stirring and shit housery. Ebenezer, the full-time geezer.
I think, yeah, he's spicy, man.
Spicy.
That's probably the best word to describe him. He's just so good, and I think he just surprises me so much in the ring. In the ring, I'm just so impressed with what he can do.
Very athletic. Very athletic.
Yeah, I think it's sort of athletic because I don't think you expect it from him. And I hadn't seen him in ages before the last CWP show, and obviously the day 24/7 scramble match. I just saw him do that that vault over the top rope and just sort of landed on everyone. And I thought, where the fuck did that come from? I didn't know he could do this sort of thing. And yeah, he's scarily good.
Mr. Zero Fear again. Like, that's what makes him so special, is zero fear, 100% confidence at all times. And I'm sure there'll be a similar response for Dirty Dave Dennis.
Dirty Dave Dennis is my best mate in wrestling. He's just like I said to you, he's been there from the start with me, and we started training together. And every week that I saw him, every week I went to training, I would always make sure to chat with Dave, and our friendship just grew stronger through there. And it's become this amazing stable now of a group of friends that just want to do something good in pro wrestling, and just become something bigger than we thought we ever could be. And yeah, that starts with Dave, and that starts with me and Dave, and the guys that have just joined in from there.
The founding fathers of the N.O.Bz. Of course, just leaves only one man, one word to describe: Sensational Simon Durden.
You said it. Sensational.
There you go.
Yeah, I'd love to be the guy that I sort of describe myself to be in the ring, sensational. And one day hopefully I can get there and be this sort of sensational being that people sort of watch wrestling shows and just think, man, this guy's really good. And I don't think I'm there yet. I'd be kidding myself if I thought I was there yet. I'm not the sort of 100% sensational Simon Durden that I can be, or the sensational Simon as maybe we'll go forward in future.
Yeah.
but we'll get there. Hopefully one day we'll get there. And yeah, sensational.
With the name Durden, you could be an absolute dead ringer to be the next Shark Boy. So there you go. Give that some thought. Get yourself a shark suit, mate. Get the Durden theme done. Just get somebody to grab a mic and just go Durden, Durden, Durden. That'd be money, I tell you. Like,
as long as I'm not coming out to Crazy Shark. Yeah.
Wow, now you've said it. We'll have to put it out there in the ether. Before you go, mate, plug your social media. Where can people find you, and where can people follow the journey of the sensational one?
Okay, so yeah, my social medias. I'm one of them dickheads that have got all different social media names on all platforms.
Oh.
I wanted Sensational Simon on all my platforms. Unfortunately for Twitter, it's one character too long, which is a pain in the ass. So on Instagram, you can find me at Sensational Simon. On Twitter, you can find me at the Simon Durden. And I think it's Simon Durden Wrestler on Facebook. And obviously follow the Nasty Old Boys on Facebook as well. We have our own Facebook that basically just shares everything that all of the NOBz put out there and the promotions that we work for, which, you know, will be CWP and ACW in the near future. And also, buy a NOBz t-shirt. We'll be selling them at every show. I have a car full of them that I'm trying to get rid of. And at the CWP show that's coming up, we will all be selling them. I'll be at the ACW show on Friday, the 6th of May in Parkstone. Come to that show if this podcast is out before then.
Hopefully be out before that.
Perfect. Yeah, come to that. I will be wrestling and I will be selling t-shirts. So please buy the t-shirts.
Please buy t-shirts. I need to eat. There was a real beggar if I ever heard one. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Just £15. You can buy one. I own one out of pity more than anything, but I do.
Thank you.
They're actually very comfortable, very nice t-shirts, and they go up to XXL because unlike some clothing brands, they actually don't mind if fat people buy their gear. Looking at you, Dexter. Looking at you. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. It's about time we got you on here. As I expected, you were very kind, very eloquent, very well mannered. Not anything like any of the other NOBz, which is a bit of a surprise. Apart from Eddie Kenway, obviously, who's too busy running around trying to bait Roman Reigns into a Twitter war because he's obviously got a lot of spare time on his hands, haven't you, big boy? And don't worry about it.
We'll get there. One day we'll see Eddie Kenway versus Roman Reigns, and I hope it's one day in the near future.
Well, if that is the case, he's got to go through me first, because obviously the Lord and Savior of our land and religion, Roman Reigns, should not be subjected to such nonsense from you idiots, as far as I'm concerned. That being said, thank you very much for coming on the podcast, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll get you back on when some more dates are coming in as well. And let's have that NOBz cast as well. Let's have all four of you on at the same time.
Yes.
Let's see what kind of unholy shithousery is unleashed. Asking for trouble.
But it's gonna come. It's gonna come.
Yeah, the NOBz will come. They absolutely will come, ladies and gentlemen. But if you want to check out Sensational Simon Durden, make sure that you do so. He might just be Sensational Simon by the time that you next see him. But check out the description below. And of course, if you're listening to this via audio, which you can, of course, do by searching for Wrestle Plug wherever you get your podcasts, it'll be available in the description of that podcast as well. From myself, Aaron X, but most importantly, from our fantastic guest, Sensational Simon, thank you very much for watching the Wrestle Plug, and we'll catch you very soon for more content.